Okay, welcome back to Conspiracy 420, the Son of Sam Chronicles with Carl Denaro. I'm RockerMike, and Rossi is the big boy right here to my left. We're going to continue talking here about the fifth Son of Sam shooting, the Virginia Voskerichian shooting in Forest Hills. We talked about in the last episode how this was kind of a different shooting, involving only one person, whereas the others involved couples or at least two people involved in the shooting as victims. What I'd like to get into here is a little bit of the theory behind what may have happened here and how this shooting happened, the conspiracy theory behind it, because it has come to light that Virginia was having an affair. She was a young girl. She was only 20 years old, I believe, 19 or 20.
Yeah.
She was having an affair with one of her Columbia professors. And when she did sadly get shot, not only did she have books in her hand, okay, which she used to block the shooting, she had a big duffel bag of clothes and belongings and things inside it, which may have indicated that she was coming from somewhere other than maybe school, or she had picked these items up somewhere and brought them back. Okay, it was a rather large bag.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't know. Okay, it's all suspicion, but what's some of the background here with this, Carl,
Well,
as far as the teacher?
I noticed, and again, I believe I put it in my book, and I said, for what it's worth, when I saw pictures of the crime scene, and obviously taken that night because you could see her body on the sidewalk, and you can see like a big, one of those big Louis Vuitton bags off to the side.
Whoa.
And what struck me as funny is like you're carrying a bag that big. According to the police, when the shooter approached her, she put her book up to protect herself from the oncoming gunshot. And it's like, well, that's kind of strange because if you have a book bag, why would you be carrying?
Why would it be in the bag?
And I can't believe that she had enough time to go into her book bag and take a book out to protect herself.
Not at all.
If anything, she would have lifted the whole bag up.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it means nothing, but it's always struck me as
it's an interesting turn of events there that she had it that way, but it also could have been she just got off the subway. She might have been studying in those books, and just didn't put them back in the bag,
or the bag was
full.
so full that she couldn't. But of course, when you find out that she was having an affair, and this is again an assumption, maybe not even a fair one, but it's an assumption that I certainly made. When I found out she was having an affair, as you kind of alluded to earlier, maybe she had a change of clothes in the bag, and who knows?
Who knows?
She certainly doesn't deserve to be shot. Don't get me wrong.
No, and this is not a judgment on her
No.
character.
No,
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just trying to put pieces together because there were some things going on at Columbia at this time. We don't know if she was involved with, but some things do point to
there might have been
Yonkers
some,
and people that hung out in Yonkers. Can you go into that a little bit?
Sure. So, it's a fairly well-known fact. It's really not connected to this or the stories you read in the newspaper weren't connected directly to Son of Sam, but you can go back and look in the archives, and there was a co-ed call girl ring being run out of Columbia University, and we've all heard stories over the years. Some college girls worked their way through college.
And again, we're not saying it was her, but it does go on.
But there was a call girl ring going on, and one of the places they operated out of was a bar directly across the street from Columbia University. And what is known is that Michael Carr hung out at that bar. and we all know Michael Carr
Carr
is, Sam Carr's son, and one of the identified
John's brother,
right, identified as one of the 22 disciples of hell, and a shooter,
right. So he may well have been very aware of
her
call
comings
girls,
and goings.
Call girls. Now it's very possible that, and again, just speculating, she may have had nothing to do with the call girls.
Right.
She may have just hung out at that bar. Maybe that was a spot that the teacher, this professor, and her could have met.
Right.
It was. I mean, it had to be
Well,
a spot for students.
it would be a good place for them to meet, as opposed to the library.
Yeah. In school. Yeah.
And again, another alternate theory. Maybe she was approached to be part of this call girl ring, and she rebuffed them, and whoever the powers that be got pissed off. I mean,
right. She may have been part of it and wanted to get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all this is
We're stretching it. I get that.
Right.
But there is a connection there because Michael Carr was hanging out. Now it also places other people that were involved. Can you go into that with Yonkers?
So the professor, Professor Lunas, who she was having an affair with, I believe he lived in Hastings on the Hudson, and hung out at this esoteric bookstore, which again doesn't make him a bad guy. But the weird thing, or the Yonkers tie into this is Dr. Carlton Gadjusuk, who was a Nobel winner for science. Mm-hmm. He's also a convicted pedophile.
And lived in Yonkers.
Right. And certainly, I take that back. He is a convicted pedophile, but he also he was homosexual, and some of the men that he had sex with were men, not boys. So he kind of ran the gamut from 14-year-old boys to whatever. So he lived in Yonkers. Again, that doesn't make him a bad guy, and it doesn't make him part of the Son of Sam cult. But it's been reported by the Yonkers Police Department that that both John Carr and David Berkowitz went to a party at least once at Gadjusuk's house.
So they knew him well enough to go to a party at his house.
Yeah, so again, this is all circumstantial evidence.
Well, you don't go to somebody's house for a party unless you really know them. Unless you're a guest of somebody else. I know I probably wouldn't, okay? I'd have to be somewhat, maybe not best friends, but somewhat associated with them close enough that you'd be like, all right, I'll go to your house for a party. Think about how many invites you've had.
So it's just just to recap, there's the Yonkers connection, there's the Columbia University connection, there's the call girl connection that brings in not so much David Berkowitz, but certainly John Carr, who hung out at the bar where the call girl ring was run out of. So you put it all together, certainly. It certainly begs for more information.
Did Maury have any other theories with this, or just what he wrote about in The Ultimate Evil?
That's pretty much what he wrote about. I'm trying to think if he came up with information after the fact. I believe John Carr and Berkowitz going to Gadjusuk's house was a later development, long after he wrote the book.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think so.
And could that be something you might ask him?
It's something that I would ask Berkowitz. The list is getting longer and longer every day. But Berkowitz could certainly
shed some light on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many questions that we've brought up, in the last couple episodes that would take God, well, it's taken years and probably take years more to get an answer, and he can answer it like that.
Like that.
Right. Okay, well, Virginia was shot on March 8th. That was 77. On March 10th, they had the big press conference, police department.
Right.
Okay, and that's when they made the announcement that there is a connection between this shooting and a past shooting, the Lamino one. I'm sorry, the Donna Lauria one up in the Bronx. And the police basically said we're dealing with. They didn't use those words, but they said there was, the calibers of the guns were the same. They implied sort of that it was the same shooter, same gun. Okay, though they really didn't know that.
But they were putting something together.
And that's when the term 44 caliber killer really came to light in the press. And again, and you've said this before, is that was March. By June and July, that would change to Son of Sam, because the letters would appear shortly after that.
Letter,
yeah, the Breslin letter, and that's when people started referring it, the public, as Son of Sam.
Yeah. Wow.
So, about that press conference, briefly, do you think the police were trying to kind of smooth it over a little bit and look like they had the situation under control? They kind of implied it was the same gun, but they didn't really know that. They just had the bullets.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think was the reason for that?
I think they led the public to believe that it was this, crazy serial killer gunman shooting couples with a 44. In reality, what they really had was, at that point, 5 shootings, all done by a 44 caliber bullet.
Right.
The bullets were too deformed to detect any, what do you call it, rifling?
Right, yeah, it has something to do with the marks left on it.
So as the bullet spins out of the barrel,
it leaves a
makes certain
distinctive
marks.
Yeah.
These bullets in all the shootings were too deformed.
Wow.
But to
test.
To say that it came from the same gun, but they were positive.
Is it possible, I never really thought of this till now, that the reason that is because most of these bullets pass through something before they hit the person?
That's a good point.
In your shooting,
Oh, yeah.
it was through the window.
Yeah.
The other car shootings were through the windows. Okay, and then
The only one that doesn't
Voskerichian through the book.
the only one that doesn't hold true is the Lamino DeMasi.
Right, that would have been straight at the person. They were on the stoop. Yeah.
You would think, and again, the police didn't make a big deal about what they recovered. We all know that one of the bullets cut the spinal cord, which paralyzed Joanne.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that bullet probably is no good. But Donna's bullet, I would think would have shed some kind of light on
Probably.
what gun.
Yeah.
And then there was
only
another
wounded.
bullet that went to the side of the house, and again, maybe
That would wreck it.
I don't know a whole lot about guns, but what I've read, the 44 was meant for sky marshals to be an extremely deadly weapon, short range, 20 feet, and that was so. If a sky marshal had to use a gun on a plane, he wouldn't poke a hole through the plane and cause the cabin to lose pressure.
Ooh.
Gotcha.
So I'm assuming that's
No, the marshal would just.
that's why most of the bullets were I say most, but I think none of the bullets were they were able to determine that.
Maybe it has something to do with the size of the bullet as well. Once it makes an impact, might be different than something smaller. I don't know.
Right. But the bottom line is they were 100% sure it was a 44. they led the public to believe that it was a
44,
particular
yeah.
44 gun.
What were you thinking at this point?
I wasn't thinking anything. You know,
Did you think you were involved with all of this, or you
Well,
said no? My shooting's separate.
I'll be honest with you. March 10th was a big day for me because that's when the heat came off me from being a so-called drug dealer to being a victim in a serial shooting. Up to that point, the police were operating under the assumption that I was involved in a drug deal that went wrong.
Right, but in the press conference, no, he had said that where it because
So I
there
always
was
call it vindication.
weed involved,
Yeah.
I call
Yeah.
March 10th vindication.
Vindication Day.
Vindication.
And my daughter's short film,
Yeah.
which she called Carl.
Yes.
I wanted vindication, but I was shot down. Because I was not the writer, director, or producer.
You couldn't do
I
it.
was just the
Well,
subject.
you're a guest
I
star.
was just the
You're a
subject
guest
matter.
star in the movie too.
But you know what? With that shooting there, right? That shooting definitely looked like it was such a different shooting than all the other shooting. This really looked like a hit. Like a
That one
freaking hit.
looks more like a hit than
It's
any of the
definitely-
others.
It's definitely like they probably knew where the girl was coming. They saw it. It was like
Well,
everything was very
yeah.
well timed.
If there's any truth to what we just said with call girls or something with the affair with the professor, I mean, who knows? Okay, somebody could have said, you know what, this is getting too close. We got to get rid of her.
Yeah.
Who knows? Okay, was Lunez married? Anybody know?
I do not know that. That's a good question.
You know,
Ooh, Lunez, was he
Yeah.
married?
was he married? Was there a reason that he would say, I can't have this person in my life anymore, and not just breaking up is going to do it?
No, that
Right.
guy
it's
never-
gonna-
Yeah, that's a good
You know,
point.
who knows?
And once again, we're going through
We're jumping hurdles here, stretching a little bit.
Yeah, this shooting is definitely a bit of a stretch, but it also opens up a can of worms that no other incident presents itself.
Yeah.
There's just all these, all these factoids that may or may not mean anything, and we could be wrong on every one of them.
Everyone, yeah.
The only one who could really answer that is Mr. Berkowitz.
Well, Berkowitz was definitely have he definitely had a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Or so he says. Probably not of the actual shooting, but he certainly knew what was going on that night.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to leave it here, and thanks again, Carl, for your incredible insight into everything.
I do it the best I can.
And stay tuned for another episode of Conspiracy 420, the Son of Sam Chronicles.